Good morning to all. My name is Kalpesh Gambhir Bhai Chaudhary, and today's my topic is constructor. So, what is constructor in Java? In Java, a constructor is a block of code similar to the method. It is called when an instance of the class is created at the time of calling constructor. Memory for the object is allocated in the memory. So, it is a special type of method which is used to initialize the object. Every time an object is created using the new keyword, at least one constructor is called. It is it is a it it call a default constructor if there is no constructor available in the class. In such case, Java compiler provides a default constructor by default. So there are two types of constructor in Java: no constructor and parameterized constructor. So no constructor is a default without parameterized constructor. It is also parameterized without parameterized constructor. So it called a constructor because it construct the value of a value at the time of object creation. It is not necessary to write a constructor for a class. It is because Java compile create a default constructor in your class does not have any. So rules of creating Java constructor. There are two rules define a constructor. Constructor name must be same as its class name, and constructor must have no explicit return type. A Java constructor cannot be abstract, static, final, and synchronized. So types of Java constructor. There are two types of Java constructor in Java. So first one is a default constructor. It is also called no args constructor, and the second one is a parameterized constructor. So what is default constructor? So a Java is called default constructor when it does not have any parameter. So syntax of default constructor is class name in bracket and bracket semicolon open and semicolon close. So suppose the example of default constructor, we create a class bike and create a bike constructor system.out.println bike is created and public static void main method bike 1 b is equal to new bike 1. So the output is a bike is created. So in this example we are creating no constructor in the bike class. It will be at the time of object creation. So so what is the purpose of default constructor? The default constructor is used to provide the default value to the object like 0, null, etc. depending on the types. So the default constructor display as the default value. So suppose the example, we create a student class int id and string name. So void display uh, in bracket system.out.println id plus name. So in main method we create two objects, student1 s1 is equal to new student and student s2 is equal to new student. So s1 dot display and s2 dot display. So the s1 dot display, the output is a 0 and name is null. So second one is also id number is 0 and output is name is a null. So in the about class you creating any constructor, so compile provides you default constructor has 0 and null value provides by default constructor. So next one is a Java parameterized constructor. So a constructor which has a specific number of parameters, it's called a parameterized constructor. So use the parameterized. Why we use the parameterized constructor? The parameterized constructor is used to provide different value uh, different value different value to distinct object. However, you can provide the same value also. So let's take example of parameterized constructor. we create a class student. So int id and string name. So we create a parameterized constructor student to parameterize int and string and int I and string n. So id is equal to I and name is equal to n. So in in display method system.out.println id and name. So in main method we create a two object student s1 is equal to new student and student s2 is equal to new student. So we display the value of object s1 dot display and s2 dot display. So output is a suppose parameterize 111 Karan and 222 Arjun. So first the output is a 11 Karan and second one is a 222 Arjun. So in this example we create the constructor to student class that have two parameterize. We can have any number of parameter in the constructor. So next one is a constructor overloading in Java. So in Java a constructor is just like a method but without return type. It can also be overloaded like Java method. Constructor overloading in Java is a technique of having more than one constructor with different parameter list. They are arranged in a way that each constructor perform a different task. They have differentiated by the compiler compiler by the number of parameter is the list and their type. So example of constructor overloading, we create a class student and suppose int id string name and int age. So in student constructor parameterized constructor pass the value of int I string n. So I is equal to id and n is equal to name. So we creating a constructor student. So passing a value in id name and age. So I is equal to id, n is equal to name, a is equal to age. So void in display method system.out.println id name and age. So in main method we create a object new object. So student s1 is equal to new student. So the passing value first is a 111 Karan and to create a second object student s2 is equal to new student 222 Arjun and age is 25. So s1 display and s2 display. So output is a s1 111 Karan and age is 0 and second one is 222 Arjun and age is 25. So difference between the constructor and method in Java. There are many difference between the constructor and methods. There are given. So Java constructor and Java method. A Java constructor is used to initialize the state of an object, and a method is used to expose the behavior of an object. So in Java constructor, a constructor must not have a return type. So in Java method, a method must have a return type. So in Java constructor, the constructor is invoke implicitly. So in Java method, the method is invoke explicitly. So in a Java constructor, Java compile provides a default constructor in if you don't have any constructor in the class. So in Java method, the method is not provided by a compiler in any case. So in Java constructor, the constructor name must be same as the class name. So in Java method, the name may or may not be same as the class name. So next one is a Java copy constructor. So there is no copy constructor in Java. However, we can copy the value from one object to another like copy constructor in C++. So there are many ways to copy the value of one object into another in Java. So there are by constructor by assigning the value of one object into another, by clone method of object class. So this is the constructor in Java. Thank you.